listening to the Nerdy Reads podcast, a hipster goblin media production.
All right, guys, welcome to the Nerdy Reads podcast. We have done it. We have arrived. We are at the final part of The Last One at the Wedding. So for us, it's the third episode of it, but it's actually part 5. We covered 1 and 2 episodes ago, and then we covered 3 and 4 last time. And today we're just covering the final bit of that, part 5. And so, Robert, give us the quick rundown, and then we will just get right into this.
All right, guys. So previously on our book discussion of The Last One at the Wedding, we had, what is it, dude? Maggie was trifling. We found out Maggie was sleeping with Errol Gardner, Aiden's dad. And yeah, dude, that was pretty jacked up. And then outside of that, we had we learned the marriage was a sham.
Mm-hmm.
They were just doing it for money. And Maggie was doing it for money.
Sure.
And Maggie and Errol pull up to Osprey. Was it Osprey Cove, dude?
That's the name.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Osprey Cove. And they find Catherine Gardner, Errol's wife, and Aiden with the dead body of Don Taggart. Don Taggart showed up. She was sleeping with Errol. She got pregnant. She wanted some money. And Catherine's like, nah.
Mm-hmm.
Hit her in the head. So then that's how this all starts unraveling and going crazy. We get to the wedding. Aiden doesn't show up. He's having second thoughts. Frank tries to talk him off a ledge to no avail. Our boy Aiden, gone, kills himself. But not before he gave Frank some advice and said that he was going to leave him something that would keep him safe in the end. And that's kind of where we left it, dude. Frank went and got Abigail. She ended up being the last one at the wedding, a girl with the crown of flowers. And that's where we're at.
Yep. And so here we are. We're at part 5. And so we're sealing it up. And we all know, we talked about this the last couple times, the first episode that we did on this book, we thought there was something going on with Maggie. We were like, okay, there's something wrong. This isn't all adding up. She's not the sweet, innocent daughter that Frank thinks she is. Then in the second part, 3 and 4, we realized, Maggie trifling.
Yeah.
And Frank needs to wake up. Okay. Frank needs to wake up. And here we are in the last part. Frank still kind of needs to wake up, but I started to feel for Frank in this section. Frank's actually Frank goes on. He's a good dude. Frank, I feel like, is he's a likable character. Him and Abigail both are very likable characters in this. And I love their relationship in this part of the book because I don't know where this happens. It happens pretty early. And so really Frank and Abigail become homies because Frank's sister is like, hey, can you hang out with her basically for the summer, and help me with her while I do some other things and work and stuff. And so Frank just does stuff, hangs out, drives with her, takes her to all her stuff, cares for her. And it's such a heartwarming dynamic because, and the reason he has so much time on his hands even is because, he ruins his streak.
He ruins his UPS record. So Frank, hurt people. That saying people always use. Frank in denial over Maggie. He's just going through burning all the bridges. He gets a phone call from Vicky and she tries to invite him over, give him a little support. He's like, no, you're not a therapist. You just cut my hair. And Vicky's like, whoa, bro, back it up. And that's out of character for Frank. That shows he's hurt. And then his glistening UPS record you mentioned, gone.
Yeah, he wrecks.
He loses his job. Yeah, has a heat stroke. And then he just gets depressed after all that happens. And he starts looking after Abigail. And Abigail kind of saves Frank a little bit.
Yeah, dude.
Because Frank was pretty lost at this point.
Yeah. And I think if it weren't for his relationship with Abigail, like you said, I think it just gave him a chance to, and you kind of got a sense of it. It gave him a chance to redeem maybe some of the things that he felt like he didn't do well with Maggie. Even though, let me just make this very clear. I don't think that the way Maggie turned out was a reflection on Frank's character. She just trifling. I think Frank was just a dad who was doing his best, and so, but I love Abigail's character. I love what all of this, even seeing Frank change, he shifts from this dude who's like, no, I don't even want her to come to the wedding. She's going to ruin this thing. She doesn't need to be here, to, hey, like, I care about this girl. I care a lot for this girl, even to the point to where he wants to adopt her later on, but he can't because, a sister and brother can't adopt together for whatever reason. But there you go. But that's a cool relationship right there.
It really is. I agree with you. And then one night he's like going up to Abigail's room and they're like, hey, I gave you a little bit more time to read the book. It's time to go to bed. And he notices Abigail has a map on her wall.
Yeah.
And it's a map of Osprey Cove, and the lake has a big red X on it. And so I'm like, okay, this is the part we're going to find all the dead bodies. And Frank has to decide if he wants to turn his daughter in. But I literally groaned out loud when I was reading when Frank calls Maggie and he's like, I have the map and I'm going to burn it. But instead he's like, Maggie, do you want this map? And she's like, yeah, Dad, bring it out to me. I'm like, oh, bruh. Frank,
it's just Frank, one thing after another, Frank.
Man, Frank is straight up chump, dude. That's what I was thinking. In my head, I'm like, Frank, you a chump, bro. Well, I'm happy to report Frank gets a little redemption. My boy goes up to the apartment, hands her the map, and, I'm thinking here when Frank walks in, he dead, because, like, he's in his daughter's penthouse. There's Errol, there's Jerry, and, of course, there's Hugo. Frank gives the map to these dudes, and but then he's like, well, I'm gonna get out of here. And they're like, hey, Frank, you said this little girl Abigail had the map. Mm-hmm. And she was smart. Like, she remembers things. She could end up being a problem when she grows up. Where's she at now? Mm. So then it's a whole different game, dude. They're threatening to kill this kid.
Yep.
And one thing I liked here is that Frank played into the transactional state of mind of a billionaire like Errol Gardner, thinking that, like, oh, I can solve everything with money because I just have copious amounts of it. And he's like, hey, dude, I'll tell you where she is, but you got to give me, like, this many shares of your company.
Yeah, it was like, 1,000 shares or something like that?
Yeah, it was something crazy.
And then Earl was like, yeah, that's a lot of money. And then Jerry, the lawyer's like, that ain't happening. Like, we're not doing this. And Earl's like, no, we're going to do it. But I thought the part that actually, like, turned my stomach and made me dislike Maggie about as much as you could dislike a character in a book was when she looked at her dad with pride.
Oh, I know.
When he was ready to take the money, because she's like, at that moment, he even said, he goes, I saw something in her eyes, something I hadn't seen in years or maybe even ever, is pride. Like, she had pride in her dad. Her dad was playing the system, and she was like, that's my dad. Like, I was just like, gosh, dude.
It was pretty far gone, dude.
Yeah, she's just gone. She gone. And so, yeah. And my favorite is in this. So he gets there, and like you were saying, he gets up there, he plays the whole thing. He's playing into that Earl part. And then he remembers, hey, if I go to he goes, there's something in the bathroom. I wonder if it's still there. Remember? And he shows up, takes that lid off the toilet, and finds a hard drive.
Yep.
Because he's like, okay, if they're going to do this, I need something to try to save Abigail, basically. And he's calling his sister from in there even and telling her, hey, you got to get out of the house, because they're like saying, don't worry about it. She's going to be gone.
She's already done. By the time you get back home, she's taken care of.
Yeah. And so, like, and they're so casual about it. Sickening, but yeah, whatever. Anyway. And so he goes to the toilet, gets the hard drive. And then when he goes to put it on, the whole entire lid crashes and shatters.
You have to have that in a thriller, right? Like, he can't just get away.
He can't just get away. I wanted him to, though.
I did too, man.
I was like, come on, bro, get out of there. And then even then, as you're like, Jason did a great job at building suspense as the elevator is creeping up. Yeah. And that old girl was also in the bathroom, the drunk young girl.
Oh, Sierra,
Jerry's wife, who was like wasted on the couch. And so she's sitting there, and you're like, dude, come on. You got to get to the elevator, bro. Let's go. Let's get out of here. She comes out. She goes, your dad made a mess. It wasn't me. He broke the thing. And here is like where my question, I'm like, like, I felt like this was a weird moment. Yeah. Because then Maggie runs in there. She goes, Dad, give it back. And so you have Hugo, Earl, Jerry. They're all up there. clearly you know that Hugo ain't scared to pull the trigger.
Nah.
And clean up anything. He's ready. He's ready to end the life of anybody. He don't care about nothing. And so here's Maggie. Basically, she has all this dirt on this hard drive, and she was asking her dad to give it back.
In front of the people.
In front of them. Yeah. And then Hugo's like, you're going to go ahead and you're going to give me that. And she knows that she has to know, like, if they take it, she knew they were going to take it. She's not an idiot. She knows that they're not going to, that her dad's not going to hand her the hard drive, and Earl and them are going, oh, okay, cool. See you later, Frank. And then they're going to like go on about their business. They're going to want to look at what's on that hard drive. And when they look at it, she's dead. So why on earth?
It was weird. I think it was like a weird panic moment for her. But dude, like, Lucia, the chef, kind of like drops the dinner, which Frank alluded to. He thinks it was on purpose. Sure. But my favorite part about that, man, she drops this duck everywhere. And at this point, Hugo's got the gun on Frank. They all get distracted by the crash of the dinner. And my boy Frank put those paws on Hugo.
Had to, bro.
He did, dude. And he made it out of the high rise with the hard drive.
Yeah, and then he was smart enough. He was wise enough to start pulling fire alarms.
Yeah, dude.
Got to do it. Frank was quick on his feet there, bro.
Well, he said he was in the military. He had a military background, and he said he's always thinking about like exit strategies, and that training and stuff really came in to play here for Frank. So I dug that part of it, dude, for sure.
Same. Yeah, and so Frank gets away with the hard drive, and then he goes back to his girl, Vicky, where he has to, say,
see some crow.
See some crow. And I understand though, like when he was talking to her, he's like, I just didn't want to admit what was going on. And
right.
I think there's truth to that. Like he didn't want to lie to her, even after he, threw shade at her, he threw every one of her business cards. So he wasn't tempted to, call her. So, I mean, he cared,
He did.
And so he goes in, he pleads with her to let him in. And so then they're at a Sports Clips or Super Cluts or whatever it is that they're at. Great Clips. I can't remember which one of those chain haircutting places, and they're on that little computer at the front desk, basically putting that hard drive. And then they just start listening to endless amounts of, Maggie and Earl and Aiden and all of this, where they're basically saying, hey, here's all the stuff. Here's
pretty much damning evidence.
This is saying that, hey, we killed old girl, and Maggie recorded every bit of that to save herself. But in the end,
she doomed herself.
She doomed herself. She destroyed herself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude. It was pretty messed up. The whole story. Maggie was a messed up character for sure.
She was.
She
was to me. Okay. Like I would like to hear your input on this too. They're all villains, like the Earl, Jerry, Hugo. They're villains, but I think Maggie is really, to me, she is the villain of this story.
Oh, without question, she is the villain. She's like
Earl and them are terrible too, but
yeah, Maggie in a book full of irredeemable characters. Maggie's definitely at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, she's the worst. But yeah, and just so everybody knows, if you just listen to us just to hear us banter and talk about things, our girl Abigail, she lives.
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah, Abigail lives. Abigail made it out. Justin kind of made a prediction about Aiden that like the blows came from Hugo. Like, hey, you're gonna go get married to her, and he didn't want to do it, and he was pretty much dead on that prediction. Yeah. I predicted that Frank was gonna adopt Abigail. I was close. It was Tammy. This super reader mentioned in our Discord, this book gets kind of wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, which, dude, you know what, man? Every once in a while, I want a happy ending. There's enough doom and gloom in the world. Abigail gets adopted by Tammy. Frank is very involved in her life to the point that she considers him her father, which was like a sweet scene in the school. Maggie's in jail. And meanwhile, the Gardners, rich beyond all belief, are still not in prison because, money.
Yeah, they're able to buy their way out of jail somehow.
For murder. Yeah.
Yeah, for murder. And so, yeah, they're out on bond, Jerry and Earl. It's crazy. It is crazy. Hugo ends up going back, and they said he was the first person to be put on death row in his country in many years or something like that. It's a crazy, like you said, it does tie it up. It's a nice, neat bow. I also enjoyed the school scene where the principal's like, hey, look, she wrote this essay about the best dad in the world, basically, and it's all about Frank. And I thought that was sweet.
It was. And then in
cool.
contrast, you have Maggie, who still can't come to grips that like she's the problem and like won't even like come see Frank when he visits her at jail.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, dude, Maggie truly is the worst.
I mean, she is, dude. And it's like, the fact that like she was so far gone that she was justifying death all around her, like all these people dying so that she can get ahead. Yep. And even to the point where she was willing to kill Abigail. Now, I also had that prediction last week, too, with the last one at the wedding. That was Abigail. And I started thinking like she was going to be the one that spilled the beans on them. And I was obviously not like 100%.
You were close, though, dude.
But it was a fairly close prediction.
I like that Aiden like had this little relationship with Abigail. Like he talked to her more than anyone else at the wedding, and he had their suitcases mixed up because they changed rooms. I love that Aiden tried to leave $1,000 to Abigail because, dude, when you're a kid, like, I mean, I'm an adult. Somebody hands me $1,000, I'm like, sweet, thanks. That's amazing. I'm over the moon. If I was 10 years old and someone hands me $1,000, I'm rich.
Yeah.
I'm living.
I'll see you guys at the video game store.
Yeah, dude, find it out.
Yeah. Well, and, if you remember too, like Frank was insulted by the $1,000. He was like, dude, does Aiden think that I'm so like bad off in life that this $1,000 is just life changing for a grown man? Like this is nothing. And he didn't even spend it. He just kept it in a drawer, which ended up benefiting Abigail later, because now she still has $1,000 and Frank got the map, and so, yeah.
Yeah. I love that little part, dude. I thought that was cool, man. And all in all, dude, if you're a fan of thrillers, there's definitely going to be something here for you. I think every character, outside of Abigail is unlikable at some point, even though Frank has a few moments in this book where I didn't like him.
Well, do you mind if I ask you to tell me what that was?
Yeah, bro, because he's a chump.
Well,
he was a straight up chump.
I guess my question would be, I mean, this could be a totally long conversation, and we don't have to answer. Like, but it's like your kids, though. If they're your kids, I feel like it was a representation.
That was what the book was
parents.
about. Yeah,
us as parents, like, would we go the extra distance to try to help our kids even when they're wrong? I don't know. I mean, she was really wrong, though. Like
she was, but it wasn't really so much towards like his like denial about Maggie. It's like, think about when like he's first meeting Abigail. Dude is just an absolute monstrous butthole to this kid.
That's true. And I've thought that too, because like even like for the whole time that was going on, I couldn't help but dig into like my own personal, because we fostered kids for a while, and I'm like, gosh, dude, quit being such a douche.
There was just that, like Frank is actually one of the more likable characters,
sure.
In the book, but there were points in the book where I was like, dang, Frank, really? How am I supposed to root for you? But
and even then though, with that, it's like, he's just really, because I feel like Maggie just manipulated him to making him that way. Because he really wanted that wedding to be perfect. He had all these things envisioned that it was going to be. And then when things were being thrown in that he was like, oh, this can mess it up. I feel like he just acted outside of himself a little bit. But you're right. I mean, he definitely was a butthole at times. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, Abigail's definitely the most, and Aiden, actually, I would say. I feel like Aiden was just this poor dude. I mean, he's just a poor kid who just like, he just wanted to draw pictures. Yeah, he wanted to draw pictures, and he wanted to live his life as an artist and go and like be with Gwendolyn or whatever her name was.
Yeah, my man didn't want no part of this fancy lifestyle, dude. He just wanted to paint stuff and be himself.
I feel for him too. Him and Abigail, two characters that, I mean, there was a time where I was like, man, this Aiden dude's a shady character too, but he was just being forced into something he didn't want to do.
Yeah, I agree, dude. Aiden had like the best character arc in the entire book.
That's 100%.
The Jason Recoluk gave me a guy, made me hate that guy, then swerved me, made me love this dude, and then made me sad when he was gone. So shout out to you, man.
Yeah, 100%. And, we'll just address the elephant in the room. I've actually been asked this. I'm not even joking. From people outside of that are on this podcast, I've been asked 3 times how this compares to Hidden Pictures. And I'm going to say this. Read them both. Enjoy them both for what they are. They're not the same. I don't think. I think Hidden Pictures is much more in that horror vein where there's just like, I mean, there's terror to that. You're not going to get the terror part in this, but this is very much thriller. This is a very like emotional ride, I think, on this book. This one, I think both of them are such quick reads. I think you will enjoy both of them. I think Jason is a very good author who writes really, really good stories. This is also one of them. So check them both out. I think you're doing yourself a favor reading both of them. So I just wanted to say that for one, because I promised I would. I was like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll answer that question on the next podcast. So
hey, I'll echo your sentiment, dude. I think you should read both. I think they're both really, really good. If someone's like full stop, pick one, I'm going to pick Hidden Pictures because I like ghosts.
Yeah. But this one's this is so good. So well written.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead, bro. And you said you would be ready this week. We'll see if you are. Last 3 words.
Crap. Abigail is awesome.
That's a good one. Frank the father.
Hey, there you go.
That's what I wanted to go with because you know what he wanted to be. It kind of happened with Maggie in a way that he didn't foresee. He gets a second chance. Frank, live it up, my man. Guys, this has been it for us with the last one at the wedding. We're going to have another book club, I'm assuming, at some point before maybe before the end of the year. We still have a little bit in December that we're going to run through. But man, what an amazing time. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the last one at the wedding. Stay tuned. We'll have another book that we'll be doing. We appreciate you guys here at the Nerdy Reads Podcast. We enjoy a good story. Believe your story matters, so be good to each other. Stay nerdy, our friends. Say bye.
Bye.